team leaders support change within their team in a way that keeps them motivated, engaged, and inspired through sustaining that change? Especially when that change is complex and stressful to you and your entire team. It's challenging, right? Well, I've got a few tried and true tips that I want to share with you right now. Tips that I've learned by working with Fortune 500 executives leading very complex change all over the world. You ready? Let's get it. It's your responsibility as a team leader to support your team going through change. But how do you do that in a way that keeps them engaged, motivated, and inspired through sustaining that change? Accomplishing this can seem daunting and so overwhelming. Well, in this video, you're going to learn 4 powerful and proven tips to help you do this. You'll learn what you should be communicating, the power of listening, what you should be consistently addressing and escalating up the chain, and the thing that is perhaps the most critical to express during your change journey. Tip number 1, communicate progress. Now, I know this might seem very apparent, very blatant, and like, duh, of course, but so often it's forgotten. You know, we might hear updates from senior leadership, but then forget to actually communicate that out to the team. It's so important that you're doing that, even if that looks like communicating every other day. Whenever there's a latest development or something especially that impacts your team specifically and what they're responsible for, be sure you're communicating that. I know for myself, when I was a change leader in many different roles, when I was working in corporate America for 15 years, I would make it a point to figure out weekly what are the next progress updates to share out. And so my team was getting some level of communication on a weekly basis. Strive to do that. A consistent level of communication, sharing the progress, the latest developments, and what may or may not have changed as it relates to the work that your team specifically is responsible for. Tip number 2, listen. Listen to your people. Do this during your one-on-ones. Do this during your team meetings. You know, I always invite all of my executives that I coach, as well as my team members, to hold what I call 5-minute change check-ins during every direct reports one-on-one. 5 minutes simply to check in on how they're managing their workload, how they're managing the change, and then listening. Listening. Never forget the emotional inventory and the power of taking that inventory simply by holding space, sharing that empathy, and listening to your employees. This is going to allow you to keep in tune with the pulse of how the team and the organization is doing moving through the change and any help needed, any help requests. You know, another very powerful question to ask after you've listened to that employee share how they're dealing or managing through the change, what can I do to support you? And of course, listening if there are any help requests. You know, listening can be so very powerful as we're going through the change journey to keep us in tune with how those team members are not only executing against their work plan, but those emotions, how they're feeling as they're going through it. You know, I was doing some work with one of the Fortune 100s in the consumer packaged goods industry, and they were going through a major change. In fact, they were splitting their company into 3 different companies. And one of the mid-level managers that I was working with implemented a round robin at the start of every team meeting, where she simply asked the question, please share one emotion that you're feeling as we progress into the day, and the reason behind that feeling. And it allowed the team to share, again, that emotional inventory, to share and kind of be in tune and check in with one another, how they're feeling, why they're feeling that way. And of course, if they're individuals that are sharing that they're having a tough time and difficulty, you can always follow up with that individual. Never underestimate the power of listening, checking in, letting those employees know that you're striving to understand and you were there to support them. Yo, you getting value from this? If you are, make sure you like, subscribe. I do videos like this all the time. They will drop directly to you, or at least you'll get notified as long as you click subscribe. So do it right now. Do it. You can do it. I'm kidding with you. Do it whenever. But yes, I hope you're getting value from this. All right, let's get back into it. Tip number 3, address help requests and escalate when needed. I just mentioned through the power of listening, you can actually understand how the team needs help. And sometimes that help is not something that you can specifically provide. And so understand when you need to escalate those particular help requests. That's one of your critical roles as a leader in supporting your team. Making sure what's needed from your cross-functional partners, making sure what's needed from executive leadership, whether that be additional resources, whether that be additional budget, or any other help requests that you're getting from your team members, making sure that they know you got their backs and you're there to support them. I can remember when I was leading a pretty complex change initiative. It was in the battery industry, leading a complex battery innovation. And I would always ask during my one-on-ones, what can I do to support you, or how can I support you? And then during my one-on-one with my one level up manager, I would share any of those help requests that I actually needed their help to accomplish. And so I always had a running list of, here's what the team is asking for support. These are the ones that I very clearly can manage on my own, but here's where I need your help, your guidance, and your input. So maybe strive to keep your own running list as you're reaching out to the team, understanding how you can support them, making sure you're communicating up to your leadership if there's areas that you can address specifically. Tip number 4, perhaps the most important, express gratitude consistently and frequently. At Change Enthusiasm Global, we've linked up with a leading research institute called CGK to understand the status of change and emotion in the workplace. And across the US, Asia, and Western Europe, we have found overwhelmingly the number one strategy to keep employees engaged and motivated, notably those who are feeling resistant to change, is gratitude or appreciation. Sharing appreciation for the individual, the effort that they're making to make the change a success. I'm sure you've been through it. You've been leading change or executing change, and it's tiresome. You can experience fatigue when you're giving your all to making it successful. And when you can hear from your leadership, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what happened yesterday. I appreciate you for being you. That can go such a long way. And so it's so important that you're striving to do that. Creating some type of gratitude practice within the workplace such that your team understands how much you appreciate them. And I will tell you, it's also really important as you think about individual to individual and expressing gratitude, understand how that individual actually best receives appreciation. I know some individuals that cannot stand when you're in a big town hall or a big organizational meeting and they get a shout out from the front of the room. They're asked to stand, everybody's clapping. They hate it. They can't stand that. So make sure you ask the question, how do you best like to receive appreciation and gratitude? Because I have a lot of it to give to you. So make sure you're in tune with how that individual likes to receive the gratitude. So of course it's received at its best. Did you get value from this? If so, I've got something else for you. So I want to share with you a recording clip of a keynote engagement that I did for an organization going through tremendous change and disruption. And the portion of the keynote I'm sharing are insights and perspective on how to lead others through change, especially when they're feeling resistant or those more difficult emotions of change like frustrated or anxious. And it's yours today for free. All you got to do is click on the link below. I want to make sure you have the research, the data, and the insights to fuel your growth through even your most challenging changes. I'm Cassandra Worthy, and until next time, keep growing and keep rocking.